Hey guys, Brad here. Check it out. I have a new deck profile for you guys, and it's one of my oldest but one of my most favorite decks, Fluffals. Figured since it's Halloween, might as well dust off the deck, show you guys the new build I worked on. Anyway, let's zoom in. There we go. First up, we got the strats of the deck. 3 Fluffal Dog. This card lets you search out any Fluffal or Edgem Sabers from deck to hand, as long as it's normal or special summoned. Next up, 3 Fluffal Penguin. This card is awesome because 1, its first effect, which allows you to special summon a Fluffal or Edgem Sabers from hand, is a soft 1. So if it leaves the field and bring it back, or you summon a second one, you get the effect again. Its next effect is a hard 1, just like most of the other Fluffals, but this card, when used for fusion summon for a Fright for a monster, lets you draw 2 and discard 1. Next up, 2 Fluffal Bears, sorry. Anyway, this card's main use is you discard it and you set Toy Vendor directly from your deck. It has a secondary effect, which does come up from time to time, but if it's face up on board, you can tribute it, take a Poly from grave, and add it back to your hand. Next up, we got Fluffal Wings. This card is you really want in the graveyard because if you control Toy Vendor and this in your graveyard, you can banish this plus 1 other Fluffal. It can even be the second copy of Wings, doesn't matter. To draw 1 card, then you send Toy Vendor to the grave to draw a second card, and then Toy Vendor gives you a search effect. And it's basically the same as Dog, any Fluffal or Edgem Sabers. Next up, Fluffal Cat. This card, when used for a fusion summon for a Fright for monster, lets you recycle the Poly back to hand. Next up, we got Fluffal Owl. This card has 2 effects. It has its on summon effect, which is optional. You can add a Poly from deck to hand. But if you choose not to use that effect, you have access to the other one. You can pay 500 to fusion summon without the use of Poly. Next up, we got Fluffal Dolphin. This card is basically the main extender for the Toy Vendor, Bear, and Wings combo. Main thing is you want to normal summon this card, and there's a Toy Vendor in your graveyard. You can activate its ability, set Toy Vendor from grave face down on your board, and send a Fluffal monster or Edgem Sabers from deck to grave. You basically set it and then send this. Next up, we got 3 Edgem Chain. And this card is used for a fusion summon, or actually when this card is sent to the graveyard, basically. You can search any Fright for card and add to your hand. And if this card attacks, you can actually add a second copy of it from deck to hand. Although that effect never really comes up. Next we got 2 Edgem Scythe. Edgem Scythes. This card is pretty cool because it has a protection effect. If a Fright for or multiple Fright for monsters would be destroyed, you can just banish this and they're good. And this card allows you to fusion summon on your opponent's turn, as long as this card is one of the materials. And finally, we got Edgem Sabers. This card is cool because it basically is one of your key fusion materials for Tiger and other stuff, you know? And it has a cool graveyard effect where you can, once, you can take a card in your hand, place it on top of your deck, and summon this card in defense. And you can use it in conjunction with this because if you didn't use the Toy Vendor effect yet, and say this card is in your hand, you can place it on top of your deck, summon this, activate Toy Vendor, discard, then draw your card, and boom, free special summon from your hand. Next up, 3 Mortumi Foelia. And one of the newest cards and one of the most broken cards in the game right now. Every time your opponent normal or summons from the extra deck, basically you get to draw 1 card. Alright, that's it for the monsters. For the spells, we run 3 Toy Vendor. The first effect of this card is a gamble. Basically, you discard a card and draw. If it happens to be a Fluffal monster, you can summon any monster in your hand. But if it's not a Fluffal monster, it goes straight to the grave. And earlier I said it gives you a search effect. If this card is sent to the graveyard, from anywhere, from field or deck or hand or whatever, basically you could search a Fluffal or Edgem Sabers. Next up, we got 3 Polymerization. 3 Fright for Patchwork, which allows you to search 1 Edgem and Poly from deck to hand. 2 Foolish Barrel Goods. This card lets you send a spell or trap card from deck to grave. you basically use this to send Toy Vendor get the search. Next up, I run 2 Regeki, 2 Lightning Storm, and 1 Duster, basically for board wipes, because this is a going second build. Next up, we got 1 Fight for Repair. You really want to use this for the second effect, which is if it's in the graveyard, you can banish this card, special summon a Fluffal from your hand. And then Fight for Fusion, which is basically Miracle Fusion for heroes, but for Frifers. For the extra deck, I run 3 Sabertooth. Best fun thing is, if this card is summoned with 3 materials, it can't be destroyed by battle by card effects. Next up, it gives all your Frifers 400 attack. And finally, when this card is fusion summoned, you can special summon a Frifer monster from your graveyard. Next up, 3 Cruel Rail. When this card is fusion summoned, you actually can use 2 effects, or just one of them. Anyway, one of its effects is you can destroy 1 card on both player side of the field. You mainly summon this on Scythe, target itself, and then the other card your opponent has. Banish Scythe from your graveyard, so this is protected, but the other card is still destroyed. And finally, its optional effect, well, its other optional effect anyway, this card lets you send a Fight for card from either your deck or extra deck to your graveyard, and you can target 1 face-off Fifer you have on the board. Say you chose Sabertooth. Sabertooth would then gain half of its original attack, so it would gain 1200. And for that effect, you basically mostly want to send this. Next up, Fight for Kraken. This card also has a target ability. You can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. Keyword send there. And finally, it has 2 attacks. Next up, our built-in Tenpai defense. Fight for Sheep. And I know I said Tenpai defense because when this card attacks, neither player can activate effects until the end of the damage step, meaning they can't activate during. Which should sound like their main win criteria for Tenpai. And if this card happens to be destroyed by battle or by card effect, or by an opponent's card effect to be more specific, you can hard once, you can bring it back, but 800 points stronger. Next up, we got another nuke, Fight for Tiger. When this card is summoned, it destroys cards on the field equal to the number of fusion materials used to summon it. And this card gives every one of your Frifers 300 attack for each face-up Frifer and Fluffal you have out on board. Next up, Frifer Wolf. This card can attack up to the number of fusion materials you use to summon it. And for burn damage, we have Fight for Daredevil. When this card attacks destroys a monster, you deal 500, and basically when this card is destroyed, your opponent takes 1000. And just in case I have to go first, I'm running Bahamut Shark and Totally Awesome. Anyway, that's the deck profile. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Later!